Hello second grade, so today I'm going to have you draw a family portrait. We've talked about Native American totem poles and how a totem pole represents people in the family, and typically on a totem pole animals can represent certain people in the family. So you have a choice for your family portrait. You can choose to draw your family like humans, or you could choose to draw each member of your family as an animal. And if you choose that, I want you to consider the animals that you choose for each family member. Think about the traits of that animal and the traits of that family member and if they're similar. So for instance, if I were to choose an animal to represent me, I probably would choose my dog because she likes to sleep a lot and I like to sleep a lot, and she is very food motivated and I love to eat. So I might choose a dog to represent me because we have similar traits. So what I want you to do first is create a frame around your paper. This is going to be a frame around your portrait. And you're going to take a ruler, line it up with the edge of the paper, and then lightly trace the opposite side of the ruler. Just lightly to get a very light line. And you're going to do this on all four sides. So you're going to line the ruler up with the edge of the paper on the left side, draw a line on the opposite side of the ruler. I find it easier to turn my paper. Line your ruler up, draw a line, and finally then what I do is I go back and I erase the lines that are inside the frame just to clean it up and make it look nice. So now you have a smaller space to draw your family. So if you have a large family, like more than 3 people in your family, you might need to make sure that you draw them small to fill the paper. So I'm just going to draw a random family and give you some tips on how to draw a real simple family, and then we'll talk about possibly drawing your family portrait with animals. So I like to just start with the letter U for the face. Then we need the neck and shoulders. Our shoulders are always wider than our head. I'm going to add a neckline to my shirt that I'm drawing, and then on the face I'm going to add a big toothy grin, a nose, just a real simple U for the nose. And then football shapes for eyes. And then don't forget some ears. Now I have this handout that has lots of different hair, so you can use the handout to look for the person in your family, what kind of hair they have, and then try to replicate that. And what I want you to keep in mind is that the hair sits above the head. So even though the top of the head might be right here, we make the hair stick above it. And so that's just a real simple way to draw a portrait of someone. Oh, and I forgot eyebrows. So I drew this person fairly big, so it doesn't leave me a whole lot of space for other family members within this rectangle. But you would draw 2 more people in your family, or I would. You might draw more than 2, however many people you have in your family. Draw them inside the frame, and then you're going to outline with Sharpie marker. And I also want you to create a frame edge around. So I'm going to take a minute to trace around my portrait with Sharpie. And go slow. Make sure you're using a nice juicy Sharpie that has a nice black line made. If you get a Sharpie that's old and it's making kind of a grayish line, throw it away. Get another one. So I want you to include some sort of frame. I'm going to do it straight with Sharpie. If you're afraid you're going to make a mistake, then I would recommend you do it with pencil first, because whatever you do in Sharpie, you're stuck with. If you choose to draw your family portrait as human beings and not as represented by an animal, this is what it might look like. You're going to draw it in pencil, outline with Sharpie, and then you're going to erase any pencil lines that are poking through. Now, the other way that you could choose to represent your family is through animals. So you could pick a different animal for each family member and draw the animal portraits. So I have quite a few animal how to draw books, 101 pets, 101 animals, we have 101 sea creatures, and we have multiple copies. So what you would do if you chose an animal for your family member is you would essentially, I'm going to do this bearded dragon. You're essentially just drawing the head of the animal and then 2 curved lines for the shoulder, because this is kind of like a portrait. So you're not drawing the whole animal kind of floating in space. You could, but to save you some time, if you wanted to draw just their faces, you would just kind of draw the head of the animal. And so even if the animal's facing a different direction, if the animal's facing and not looking straight on, like this one's kind of almost looking straight at us, that's okay if the animal isn't looking straight on. You can still draw that animal as representing one member of your family. So I just want to show you quickly how to do that. Okay, so there's the head of the bearded dragon. And then to finish it off, you could continue drawing the arms and the rest of the body, but I'm just going to draw kind of like almost like a neck and shoulders coming down off the paper. And then if I look at the body of the animal, he still has some spiky, I don't know, reptile skin, so I would add that. So that could be one family member. So if you chose an animal that's looking straight on, that'll be really easy. You would just draw the face and the hair and the ears, and then you would just draw these lines down to the bottom of your paper. So maybe this dog, the beagle, could be another family member. So I would just draw the face. And I try to draw it fairly big, but if you have a lot of members of your family, you're going to probably have to draw smaller to get it to fit on the paper. Okay, so I drew that head a little bit smaller, but that's okay. Proportionally, I probably should add some of this other stuff for the dog, but I'm just going to add those curved lines going down. All right, and then there's another member of the family. And then you would draw all your members of the family as different animals that you think represent them as a person, and you would trace it in Sharpie. So once you have your portrait drawn, your family portrait drawn and outlined in Sharpie, then you have to decide what color family you're going to use. And that's when this handout, this packet, comes into play. So if you go back to your color families, you're going to choose a color family on these pages. You might choose primary colors or the secondary colors, warm or cool colors. You might choose analogous colors, or maybe you want to choose one of the color families you made up, but you're going to choose one color family. So that's going to limit the colors that you can use. It's going to limit it to 3 colors to use. So you need to decide how you want to use those 3 colors in your picture. So you could choose to color in, if you did humans, you could choose to color them in realistically. Use skin colored crayons, color in their hair the correct color, and then you could choose to fill the background with your color family. So what that would look like is this. So I chose to draw the family and color them in realistic colors, and then I used an analogous color family, red, orange, or no, I'm sorry, red, violet, violet, and blue violet, and I just kind of colored and let them overlap and mix together in the background, colored neatly and solidly. But maybe you don't like that. You could color your human family in realistic colors, and then you could do the color family on their shirts. So on this one, I chose the secondary colors and put them on the shirts of the family members. So that's where that color family comes in. Or you could choose to use unrealistic colors on the faces, like this one, where I did each person in one of the 3 primary colors. And that works out great because I have 3 people in my family, but you might have 5 people in your family. So you might have to color 2 people the same color. And what I did was I used pressure. I pressed hard on the hair to get a dark color, and then using that same crayon, I lightly pressed to color in the skin to get a different value of that color. So you need to choose. Here's my animal portrait and my color family choice here, one of the color families that I came up with on my own. And what I did with these is I pressed hard on the outer edge next to the Sharpie marker, and then I pressed lightly to fill it in. So once you decide how you're going to color these in with crayon, then the last step is to use the gold paint to color in your frame. So you are going to get a cup of gold paint. I'll probably already have the lid gone. And you're going to take your paintbrush, and I just want you to neatly paint in your gold frame. Now, metallic paint shows brush strokes very easily, so you want to always be making a smooth brush stroke following along this shape. You don't want to take your paintbrush and do a scribbly brush stroke like this, because that will show up when the paint dries. So you want to be smooth, pulling your paintbrush and making a smooth mark so that it looks painted nice and neatly. So wherever I have some thicker paint, I'm going to smooth that out and try to make it even. If you go outside your Sharpie line for the frame, that's okay. I just did that right up here. It happens. We're not machines. We're not going to be perfect. So just do the best you can. And you know what? If we want, we could cut around the outer edge of the frame and cut that white paper off, and then no one would know that I painted outside my frame by accident. But I want you to take your time pulling and smoothing out this paint. See how it's like thicker here, and you can see my brush strokes. When it dries, you're still going to be able to see that. So I'm going to go back over that and pull and smooth out that gold paint. All right, and then when you're finished, you'll give me your paintbrush back, and I'll collect the paint, and then you will put your finished family portrait on the drying rack to dry.